Joining us on the Go Talk Hotline live from the UC, it's the one and only Willie Gottlieb, perfectly coiffed. Follow his Bulls reporting, Will_Gottlieb. Read his stuff, allchgo.com. Goat, Bulls got themselves into another shootout. They come out on the losing end of this one. What was the headline from Billy or whoever you spoke to post-game tonight?
I think just the defense. I mean, these guys are playing offense at a very high level. I tweeted out this morning, we talked about it last night, that over the previous 7 games, not including this one, I'm not sure how those numbers have changed, number 1 offense in the league. And you put up 123, you figure that's good enough to win most nights. And I mean, the Pacers last year were kind of what the Bulls are this year, which is to say like a very, very high level offensive team, scoring a ton, shooting a ton of threes, but really struggled on the defensive end. And I think you saw the second part of that come back to bite them a little bit tonight, where they just really weren't able to get themselves back into this game in the fourth quarter. They made a little bit of a run and tried to get themselves close, but it's just tough when you're not able to get stops. And TJ McConnell, Billy Donovan was praising the Pacers' second unit, just those straight line drives, getting to the rim, spraying it out for threes. It's just really tough to defend when you're always chasing and when you're always giving up those runway layups, openings to the rim. So I don't know that this Bulls team really has the personnel to get to like a very high level defensively, but I think there's things that they can do to get themselves at least close enough to, 20th to where now you're starting to win some of these games and, not just having to rely on outscoring them, which to be fair, they've been doing these last 7 games, but obviously that's not a sustainable form of offense. As well as they're playing, I just think you need to also have that defensive component there to really put yourself in position. So I think you're going to be challenged there. That was kind of the messaging from Lonzo and Zach, who we talked to post game, certainly from Billy, who's trying his best to whip these guys into shape in terms of their ability to get to a better level defensively. But it's just tough. And I mean, they're playing 4 guards for the most part with Patrick out. Matas played a little bit today, but he was struggling with his vision. He was just telling me in the locker room after game, like he really couldn't see anything peripherally. The mask that they gave him was not like fit to his face. So I do not think he wants to wear that again. But it's just tough when this is kind of what the roster is, to really lock in and become like a high level defensive team, let alone average.
Yeah, I'm glad you said, because I was definitely going to ask you about Matas and how that mask worked out for him. Did they say how long he has to wear that mask, or is it something that was more precautionary than anything?
Didn't say, but he did say that he does not want to wear it. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's not wearing it next game.
Ditching it off. Okay. Wanted to ask you about Vuce tonight. Didn't have, the greatest night. He usually struggles. We talked about it here. Usually struggles against the bigger opponents when they're centers, those true 7-footers, like guys like Miles Turner, who's definitely a shot blocker like that. Was there anything said about Vuce and his game? Because I thought he did his best. His 3-point shot was definitely on, but he just wasn't able to get inside like we've been watching him do and get those points in the paint.
Yeah, to me, it felt like a little disjointed. There was never really a period where he like got it going. Like he made some shots, but there wasn't like, it didn't really feel like he was a featured component of the offense. And I think that when the Bulls have been at their best this year, it's because they're really running a lot through Vuce as kind of like, either the primary half court offense or the secondary transition stuff, where he's, as we talked about, trailing in transition, pump fake, get into the paint and spread out or finish. Or starting to run some of those post actions through him. And it just felt like they weren't really able to do that tonight. And Billy, said the same thing. It's just like they have to do a better job finding him. And I'm sure Will tell you, like, as a big man, you rely on guards to get you the ball. And so if you're not being looked at, if you're not, even if you have good position, even if you've got a nice seal, if the guards don't get you the ball or they're moving a little bit too fast and trying to, skip through their reads and get to the next thing, that can kind of leave a big man like Vuce out of priority a little bit. And I think you saw some of that tonight. I mean, he had, that 3 at the end of the game that missed that like could have cut it to 5. So there's some shots I'm sure he would want back, but it just didn't really feel like they really got him involved in the offense. And I think against a Pacers team that, I mean, they've got Miles Turner, who's been really solid, but aside from him, James Wiseman tore his Achilles, Isaiah Jackson tore his Achilles. They don't really have anybody else down there. And it felt like another opportunity similar to last night where they could have done that. But for whatever reason, they didn't. So I think they just need to kind of get back to the things that have been going well for them. And certainly on the offensive end, featuring Vuce a little bit more can help.
Hey, Goat, I was curious, what to you and if you were trying to win a game, what is their best 5 on the floor?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Io for sure is out there for me. I've said this before. I think the third best player on this team right now. Obviously, Zach and Vooch are out there. And then, I mean, maybe Lonzo and Kobe. Is that 6? Zach, Vooch, Kobe is 3, and then Lonzo, Io. I feel like that might be my best 5.
All the guards.
And I think, it speaks to the roster construction. Lonzo had a hard cap at 18 tonight. He was just saying, like, he came in for the final, like, fourth quarter and played like 1 minute and 5 seconds, and that was it because he'd gotten 18 and that was all he had. So that's a challenge there too. Obviously, no Patrick, and I don't think Matas, as well as he's playing, I don't think you could like say he's ready to be like in a closing 5 at this point. So I think that's probably the way I would go, and then you just live with playing small and switching and trying to get up and down and shoot some threes. But I think that speaks more to the roster construction than necessarily that being like the best lineup that you could possibly imagine.
One of the more high volume games from Zach LaVine scoring wise we've seen in a while ago. Did you guys get a chance to talk to Zach after the game, and what were your thoughts on his performance?
It was great. We talked to him the other day at practice, and one of the questions was like, do you feel like you need to, like, obviously the team has changed their offensive identity, but are there games where you feel like you need to score 45 to keep them afloat or keep them around or keep you in position to win? And he said, like, yeah, maybe, but we're really not built that way anymore. We're not trying to play that way. So I think it just speaks to the way that Zach has bought into this style of play. And certainly there's times where he kind of goes into his, isolation, one too many dribbles, kind of Zach LaVine offensive old. But I think for the most part, he's been really great at just playing within the flow of the offense, taking good shots. I mean, you see his shooting numbers right now. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I know it's over 50% from the field and 40 from 3. So just the way he's scoring, it feels so effortless. It feels so easy for him. And I think it is when you're just getting so many open shots and playing in transition. So, I mean, the way he's playing right now, like that was an incredible game. It did feel like one of those games, like I was saying, where you did need a little bit more from him to just get yourself going a little bit. But obviously like the turnovers, I think he had 4 compared to only 3 assists here, just looking at the box score. But for the most part, I thought Zach played really well.
Real quick, this is funny to say, but do you feel like the way the Bulls played tonight was more of a bump in the road and not a sign of things to come, just as far as how they were playing and how they were shooting? Because we've seen them just, over 50%, three-point shooting's been amazing. Guys, passing the ball, and, they didn't really have that tonight. So do you just see this just a night that, off of back-to-back that they had, or is it more of a sign of things to come?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, the way that they've been playing, it's felt a lot snappier. It felt like, this was not at that same level. And I don't know if it was second night of a back-to-back. They've played, I think, 17 games in November. They've got a much shorter month this year with only 12 games. So maybe they use this time with a little bit more practice and a little bit more rest to be able to really, dig into that more and lean into their speed. But it didn't feel like, at least in comparison to the Pacers, that they really had that extra gear that they've kind of beaten teams with. And maybe that's just the Pacers also playing that same style. And so it was so fast from both teams that it just didn't look like the Bulls had that sort of edge. So I don't know. I think it's too soon for me to say that like this is, the start of a bad trend here, because even if you didn't watch the game and just looked at the box score, like they made 21 threes. They shot, 47% from the field, over 40% on threes. I think this is like a good enough offensive game to win most nights. And I do think that just the Pacers playing equally fast made it such that like it's just a little bit tough to really outdo them at their own game, which is, I mean, the Pacers are not having the same year that they did last year, but this is a conference finals team from last season. So they are really good. They've obviously gotten off to a rough start here, but especially considering the fact that they play that same style, I think it maybe just didn't look like the Bulls had that, turbocharged offense that they've had these last 7 or 8 games.
Goat, we appreciate it, buddy. We got to get to an ad break. You got to finish writing and get home. Bulls Nation, follow him, Will_Gottlieb. Read his stuff, ALLCITY.com. Enjoy your Saturday, buddy. We will see you Sunday for Bulls Sixers.
Talk to you guys then.
Yes, sir.
Will the Goat.
We all silly like the mayor.